Now Provic
got the right hand free. He's loose with the right hand, and he starts to retaliate, and down goes Nyland, and the two of them are hammering each other.
Knights of Columbus, that hurt.
It's old-time hockey, the way you're supposed to play. You throw a little lumber if a guy gets in your way. You play like Gordie Howe or Eddie fucking Shore. We can't all be Gretzky's, the Muse or Bobby Orr's. Hey.
The enforcer of all hockey podcasts. It's the Biscuit. It's the Biscuit.
Damn it! Set goal regulation size of what?
The enforcer of all hockey podcasts.
God help the fucking day if fighting's ever banned. As our country will stop working on so bad this fucking can.
Hi everybody, it's the Biscuit Podcast.
Hey, you wanna go? Yeah, okay. Good luck, man. Good luck to you too, buddy.
All right, Biscuit Babies, I'm here with Trevor Beggs of the Hockey Writers. He covers the Vancouver Canucks. How are you doing, Trevor?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Pretty good, man. Unfortunately, we're covering the Canucks, and unfortunately, we're covering them after that preseason game last night.
Yeah, we sure are, eh? I mean, I don't know if Vegas is going to get 9 goals in another game this season, but if it's going to happen against anybody, it was going to happen against the Canucks, I guess.
That was pretty wild. I was like in and out of sleep watching the game, not really paying attention at all. I didn't even realize Wong had a hat trick. That's how much I was paying attention. But you know,
yeah.
I look up at the end of the game and I'm like, holy shit! What was it? The final 9-4?
Yeah, it was 9-4, and you know what? I mean, it looked bad at first, but you know, I wasn't too surprised when I thought about it. I mean, you know, Besser's there, Virtanen's there, Subban's there, so those are your big names. But I mean, most of the Canucks are, you know, halfway on a plane to China by now. So
yeah. Right.
It was pretty. I mean, it looked like watching a junior game, to be honest. There was a lot of offense, a lot of back and forth plays. So it was exciting to watch. But yeah, there wasn't too many NHL caliber players on either side of the lineup there.
Now, you mentioned a guy who I thought, you know, was one of the brighter spots for the Canucks yesterday was that Besser kid. He seems to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, Besser's our best hope at any kind of offensive production this year. And there seems to be a lot of talk in Vancouver about is Besser ready for the NHL? You know, he didn't get to go to China, unlike the rest of the team. So people are kind of wondering if they're going to send him to the AHL. You know, especially when they've signed guys like Gagne and Vanek, and they still got Eriksson on the roster. But when you watch Besser play, like, he's got sublime offensive skills. And I know it's early in the preseason. He looked good in that short stint last year. But if anyone's going to make the team this year out of the young guys, it's got to be Brock Besser.
Now, why do you think they kept him here? Just maybe for the Vegas game, simply? Because from what I've read about him and what I've seen from him, like you said, the small stint last year and the preseason game last night, he seems to, I mean, he's got to be able to make this team.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it probably will end up that way at the end of the day. You know, it'll depend how he does as the preseason goes on. I think early on, you know, in the preseason, you're facing, you know, rosters that aren't as tough. So he looks really good right now, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes as the games go on. But right now, I know Jim Benning's in town. He's still watching the games in Vancouver, and he'll be watching the preseason games on Wednesday and Friday, I believe it is, against Calgary and Edmonton. So I think he wants to take a close look at Besser, especially. And there's probably other guys like Virtanen he wants to take a look at too. So I think Virtanen, Besser, and Subban, and some of the other Canucks young guys, Benning really wants to get a look at. So I think that's why some of those guys are still here. Goldobin as well is another guy I missed.
Well, that makes sense. If he's going to stay in town, you know, maybe he can get a better look. Unfortunately for Besser, he was scoring last night on Dylan Ferguson, who I think is a tremendous turd. He's one of my least favorite goals. I don't know, for whatever reason. I just don't like him. I just don't think he's good. So I was happy to see him put a couple past him.
There's those rosy cheeks, eh? You can see those rosy cheeks sticking out from behind the mask. That's just bugging you, isn't it?
Now, you brought up Subban, too. When I'm looking at this defensive pairings, man, there's no way. I mean, he should be able to squeak in there at the bottom 6, you would think.
You would. It's a tough position for Subban to be in. I mean, offensively, he's been great down in Utica, and I've talked to some of the Utica beat writers, and I've watched some Comets games. And he's got a great shot. He's got great speed. He's got a great first pass. But he's it's hard to say, but he's still a small defender, and he still struggles with those one-on-one battles a bit.
Yeah.
And until those improve, I don't think he's going to crack this team. And you got a lot of guys. You got like Patrick Weirkoch. They've signed Philip Holm from Sweden. Yoel Levy's sort of in the mix, but I don't think he'll make it. Biega, Padan, like there's some guys fighting for that 7th spot, and with the guys they've signed with Del Zotto and Gabrandt still being here, it's a tough top 6 to crack at the moment. As bad as the Canucks might be this season. Yeah,
and Del Zotto's either got a lack of better term, shit or get off the pot. It's time for him to at least. He's got to do something this season. None of this pussyfooting around 15 points. Under average, plus minus. He's got to do something to keep a job, I think, and to at least stay competitive and be on the top 2 pairing.
Yeah, it was an interesting contract. I mean, most people kind of applauded the Canucks for signing Del Zotto and Gagne, but it was a bit of an odd deal if you think about it. I mean, $3 million for a guy who was a fringe player in Philadelphia last season. Yeah, and they got a lot of young defensemen, but these young defensemen were beating him out for minutes. So it'll be interesting to see what Del Zotto brings. He's got those leadership qualities there that everyone kind of talks about, and he's a guy that might get power play time as well. I mean, there's no clear power play quarterback for the Canucks right now. If he can find those offensive strides that made him a good NHLer in the first place. That'll be his only shot at really kind of reviving his NHL career. Otherwise, this could be his last stop.
Yeah, and you're really going to sign a guy on leadership qualities, but you have the Super Twins, and you would think that most of the leadership comes through those guys.
Yeah, maybe they just signed Del Zotto to be the DJ. He talks about a lot about how much he loves music, so maybe there are just some bad tunes in the Canucks locker room.
Hey, anything that'll work at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly. The guy's got a little extra motivation, so maybe he's a guy who likes upbeat, happy music.
Yeah, and Sam Gagne, he's interesting. I mean, he was brought in a player tryout last year to Columbus, makes the team, and then plays fucking lights out. 50-point season and just doing shit that he cooled off there for a little bit, but to be expected. But someone was going to sign him, and there's a phrase going around in Vancouver a lot, this rebuild on the fly. So, why not get him to see if he can continue on with that success from last season, instead of bringing up a young dude who, might not be able to do it. I think there's a better chance at Gagne on your third line to make some noise and make some things happen.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? He did flourish in that role last season, and I've been working on my season preview for the Canucks on the Hockey Raiders, and I still have Gagne on that 4th line.
Oh, really?
Because I think he could be he could fill a similar role there. I mean, the Canucks are probably going to spread out offense within all 4 lines, so I think he's a guy that could probably be on that power play again and be on that 4th line. But it's the same thing. Is he really going to be able to replicate the same success last season? I mean, Columbus has some great power play quarterbacks in Zach Werenski,
right,
and Seth Jones, and the Sedins haven't really been good on the power play for the last 3-4 seasons. So I don't think he's unlikely to match that production on the Canucks power play.
No, I don't expect him to get. Well, I think he had 18 PowerPoint goals last season, something like that. But you'd almost be foolish not to put him on the power play. At least give him a shot to fail.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what the Canucks have done is they've made training camp and preseason interesting. They've got lots of competition there with a lot of old guys competing, but it's Sam Gagne, Thomas Vanek, Louis Eriksson, Besser, Berchi, Granlund. There's a lot of guys that could be competing for power play time. So Gagne is no lock. Gagne's no lock to get up there. I mean,
right.
He could easily have 20 points this season instead of 50. He's only a year removed from that terrible year in Philly. He's a bit of a wild card. I mean, they signed him to this 3-year deal, and the money's fair, but the term might bite him in the ass if it doesn't work out. Yeah,
Gagne was super happy with that 3 years for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And you speak of Vanek, I don't hate his game, man. I liked watching him in the time that he was in Detroit last year. I think he can still fucking score. I think he's still got it. And he's going to have a lot more opportunity in Vancouver, I think, to play the way he likes to play and, throw a few more biscuits at the net.
Yeah, it really depends what Green wants to do with him. But, I mean, Vanek's got to be one of the most skilled guys on the Canucks roster. If not in the league, I mean, the guy has awesome offensive skills. He can dangle, he can shoot. It's more so his foot speed, and his compete level that seem to be in the questions here.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have a great year in Vancouver. I don't know if I'd bet on him even being as good as he was in Detroit. I'm keeping the expectations low for all Canucks. This team didn't score too many goals last season, so you can't expect too much. But
it's probably a wise choice.
What's that?
That's probably a wise choice.
Yeah, I can't be disappointed that way, right?
Right. Hey, I'm a Blue Jackets fan, man. It's been 17 long years, so it always seems at any moment, the bubble can just burst and be like, oh fuck, we suck again.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I've been spoiled, man. I mean, the Canucks came so close to winning that cup, but they've been awesome to watch ever since the West Coast Express in the early 2000s. So, I mean, there was a good 10, 15 years where the Canucks were great to watch.
I've said it on.
It's only like the last 3 or 4 where it's gone downhill.
Yeah, I've said it on here before. That was one of my favorite Stanley Cup final that I can remember is Boston and Vancouver. I thought those games were every single one of them, every minute, every second of that series was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, don't ask me to watch highlights of Game 7 again, but it was a fun series to watch for sure.
Were you out there helping burn the city too after the fucking game?
No, I was definitely not. I was getting sentimental about it. I sat at home with my old man. I was like, you know what, we're gonna watch a cup win together. And then when it went down, I stormed out and walked down to the pub to check out the TVs, and I see the city's on fire, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is going downhill fast.
Yeah, things escalated very quickly after that loss. That's for sure, man.
Yeah, exactly. I was downtown for the good times. I was downtown in Game 2 when Burrows scored the OT winner. So that was a great time, man. We were like on the streets cheering for a good 6 hours after the game ended.
Hell yeah!
The city was just crazy, man.
Hell
so
yeah!
There's some good times before it all went to shit.
So yeah, they've missed the playoffs the past 2 years. They went 30, 43, and 9 last season, but they last in the Pacific. They bring in Gagne. We've mentioned Gagne, Vanek, Delzato. And then Nielsen to play goalie. That's going to be an interesting situation.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, the goaltending battle. Goaltending is one of the biggest question marks in the Canucks in general. And Nielsen, he was superb last season in Buffalo. I mean, had a great save percentage, but he's been hot and cold throughout his career too. So it'll be interesting to see who kind of runs with it. It looks like Markstrom should get the chance to be the guy, unless he's absolutely terrible in preseason. I think he's going to start the season as the number 1 goalie. But even Travis Green down in Utica for the past 3 or 4 years has always gone with a timeshare for the most part. So that's something else to consider as well. Even with Demko last season, Demko and Bachman basically split games throughout the whole year. So I think Green will probably split the goalies, or it'll be a situation where best goalie will stay in or whatever.
Yeah, till they go cold.
Yeah, exactly.
That's got to be something that has to be addressed here soon, though, because I don't see a number 1 dude out of either of them, really.
No, and I mean, Markstrom, I guess, might have the capabilities, but no one really knows, right? He's a complete fucking wild card.
Right.
He's never started more than 30 games in the season. His career stats don't look great, but he's also played in front of terrible defenses. Mind you, this year's defense might not be too much better, so it could go south quickly. But I know that 30 minutes of a preseason game doesn't mean much, but he looked stellar in the first preseason game against the Kings. So a sign of things to come? Probably not, but you never know. Still optimistic in September.
Oh yeah, and you gotta, as playing goalie for the team, you're probably thinking, oh fuck, this defense in front of me. You're basically getting thrown to the lions. So even if you play lights out, you're still probably going to get a few buried behind you. And so I guess it's going to be how well they can keep their confidence up and just realize shit might get a little rough, but I got to stay in here and someone's got to be in front of the net. Why not me?
Yeah, exactly. And, Markstrom's had some terrible luck if you think about it. I mean, he was behind all those terrible defenses in Florida, and he comes to Vancouver right as the team starts to go down the toilet. And now he's not going to be helped out too much this season, I don't think. I mean, there's a great stat. I think it's high danger scoring chances from last season, and I think almost every Canuck except for Brock Besser and Derek Dorsett, who both played like less than 15 games, are the only guys over 50%. So no one on the team is really excelling at preventing scoring chances. So it could be a long year for both goalies.
Well, the good thing is Vegas is a team this year, so they probably won't get last in the Pacific.
Yeah, I think the Travis Green effect will have them scoring a few more points this year, so I think they'll finish ahead of Vegas, but I don't see them getting any more than like 80 points. Would be like an absolute perfect season for Vancouver.
Yeah.
To improve within 10 points.
For sure.
I think it would be stellar, but that's kind of what I see them doing. I see them getting a few extra wins this season, but not much other than that.
There's a lot of high hopes on Mr. Green. He's a young coach, and he's been successful. But he comes from Utica, yeah?
He does, yeah. So he was in Utica for 4 seasons down there, I believe, 3 or 4. So, I mean, he's been groomed for this job. I think if the Canucks didn't hire him for this season, someone else would have. I mean, he was interviewed by Anaheim and Colorado a year ago before Carlisle and Bednar took the jobs. But he seems like he's ready for it. I think one thing Canucks fans will like is that he's more adaptable than Desjardins. I mean, Desjardins was stubborn to a T. I mean, he had his same crappy lineups out there. He put Sutter with the Twins on the power play on the first line. It never worked. It looked terrible. And he was so reluctant to change anything. So, I mean, he also loved guys like Jason Magna, who played 50-plus games last year. And 14 minutes of ice time a game. Like, there was just some bad decisions from Desjardins. I think he's a good players coach, but he was way too slow to adapt last year. And I think Green will be the opposite of that. Even in his opening presser, he talked about how every day he thinks about different line combinations, and he's got wall charts up all over his house. So I'm picturing some madman who never sleeps and juggling the line. So I think he'll be a bit better than Desjardins in that capacity.
That's probably what they need, a serial killer type coach, who has like just people's names written on his walls, fucking not sleeping at night, eating his fingernails and shit.
Yeah, I think he's biting his toenails too.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to take a look at that shit. But I think Green will be a bit of a hybrid between Tortorella and Desjardins. Like if Tortorella and Desjardins had a little coach baby, I think it'd be Travis Green. I mean, Green's got a bit of he can be mean with his players. It can be hard for them. You talk to a guy like Jordan Subban, and Subban will be like, Green's yelled at me a lot, and I love it. It's helped him out. Yeah, but he's also a player's coach too. He's good at developing like Willie. So I think he can be a bit of good cop and bad cop in that regard.
Hey, that's can't get much worse at this point. I was sad to see Mr. Miller leave. He holds a special heart in most Americans, a special place in Americans' hearts. So it was sad to see him leave. I liked him being a number one, but he's getting up there in age, and it's probably a better fit for him to go back up in Anaheim, and definitely a better shot at getting that cup.
Exactly. Hey, you know what? He's back in the States with you, man.
So that's right, man. Back home.
Back home, yeah, exactly. So it was time for the Canucks to move on.
Yeah, I agree.
Miller gives him that safety blanket. I mean, and Miller was underrated, I think, for his time here. I mean, he was consistent as a goalie. He had a lot of games where he faced a ton of shots. He was a great leader. But I think the Canucks are in a state where they're not going to be very good, so you may as well find out what you have in Markstrom or Nielsen.
Right.
And if it doesn't work, you fall to the bottom of the standings and then try again next year, right?
Yep.
I mean,
he did have one of the, I think, one of the best saves of last season. I don't know what the fuck he was doing out of position, but man, he came flying back like a bat out of hell and stopped that. What was a Zetterberg shot, I think. That was
Zetterberg, yeah.
That was fucking incredible.
I've never seen a save like that before. I mean, that was incredible.
What was he doing that he was all the way over there?
Yeah, I don't know how he got there so fast, man. I mean, maybe he was just saving up some juice for the very end of the game. Maybe he's elastic man. He just stretched that arm out a couple extra inches there.
Oh, it was. You'd see Zetterberg's face like, holy, like you can't even do that in a video game. That was fucking unreal.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. I mean, the whole crowd in Detroit were cheering. I don't think that the Red Wings crowd has cheered so much this season. So I mean, that was an incredible moment.
So besides Miller, you lose Bisa and Larson. Besides that, you don't really lose a whole lot. Not that there was much to lose, but practically the same team coming back. Vanek and a lot of these young guys are going to play. I expect Chaput to play. I really like Marcus Granlund. I really do.
He's a great underrated player for sure. And I think most people will want to see him back up with the Twins this year, and I think that's where he should go. I mean, he was great up there last year. He's a good two-way player. He's got speed. He's got a good shot. And he scored 19 goals last season with a wonky wrist, so there should be room for improvement this season.
Right.
And it'd be a great way to spread your scoring around too, right? So if Granlund's up with the Twins, that means guys like Eriksson, Vanek, Gagne, they're all being pushed down the lineup. So the scoring just gets spread out if you keep Granlund up there.
Yeah, probably not a bad move. I actually like that. Put him up there on the top. And I think the Twins would like him up there too.
Yeah, that's what the Twins have been, all the rumblings around with the Vancouver media. They're all saying the Twins want to play with Granlund out of anybody. And he's more like a Yannick Hansen maybe than an Alex Burrows, but Hansen had success up there too. So I think Granlund's probably the best option up there at the moment.
Hey, if that's what the Twins want, this is their last year, for all intents and purposes in Vancouver. You might as well give it to them.
I think what the Twins want is they want a challenge for that top line spot. Still, they still feel like it's their spot to lose, and at this point, I think based on last season, Horvat is the number one center. I mean, people can say he had second line points or that he still hasn't done enough to surpass the Sedins, but he was easily the Canucks' best player last year. So I think if the Sedins want to challenge for that top line spot, they got to prove that they can outplay Horvat. And even Baertschi, for that matter. Baertschi scored at a better points per game rate than Daniel. So I think if the Sedins, really want to make the most of last year, they got to show that they were better than the 40, 50 points they scored last year and push to that top line spot and improve the power play. But again, it's a big ask because that power play's been so bad for so long.
Yeah.
But Newell Brown's back, and they did have a good power play with him. So maybe he's the secret antidote. Who knows?
Now, and for them, I don't think they can be like if they get put down to the second line or don't have a more productive year than they've had in the past couple. I don't think they can really ask for a whole lot because they want to play together, and I don't think there's a whole lot of teams that are going to be like, oh yeah, let's empty the bank and have the Sedins come.
Yeah. It's not going to happen. I think at this point they're going to retire as Canucks.
I think so.
I'd be shell shocked if anything else happened.
I think so too. I just don't see there being unless they go to the fucking KHL or something like that. I don't see I don't see anything happening. So they might as well just get comfortable and enjoy that who they were and what they did for Vancouver and just kind of hang it up here in a couple.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I think some people want them gone at the end of the season so the young guys can come up. But I kind of like what the Canucks are doing in terms of icing a veteran lineup. And if the kids are good enough, you find a way to ship out some of the veterans. Like you don't want to turn into the Edmonton Oilers or the Toronto Maple Leafs where you're the laughing stock of the league for 10 years. You acquire all these top picks and then just let them play without having to earn it. So I think the Canucks are doing a good job from staying away from that method. And the Sedins have always been some of the guys that are in the best shape out of anybody on the team. So I think as long as they can still play, they should. And I think they still got probably, I'd say 2 or 3 seasons left would be my guess.
I agree. Trevor, what's your prediction for this year's Vancouver Canucks?
All right. Well, for the Hockey Raiders, my season preview, I have them at 78 points on the year. I have them with 4 more wins than last year. So I think all the Canucks should just give themselves a pat on the back, and then call it quits in April. I don't think they'll be much higher than I have them 7th in the Pacific, 13th in the West, and 27th in the NHL.
That's probably about right.
That's 2 whole spots higher than last year.
Hey.
3 if you count the team. So, small victories here.
Greasing your way up there, man. Why not?
Exactly. So I think Travis Green will have a good impact on the team. I think you might see some more scoring with Besser in the lineup, and you got Vanek and Gagne in those lower lines.
I'm hearing
Ericsson's probably bound to do better than 24 points, if not that much better. He's bound to do a little bit better. So I think there'll be more. I think there'll be more goals from the Canucks. I think they'll be a little bit more exciting to watch, but they'll probably give up more goals as well with that unproven tandem and run-of-the-mill defense.
just wild, wild west, man. See just who can score the fucking most, man. Just fire him.
I love it, man. We watched a lot of 1-0, 2-1 games last year. I used to be depressed, actually. The Hockey Night in Canada would come on, and there would be a fantastic Leafs game. They'd be playing Ottawa or something. It'd be 5-4 back and forth. And then the Canucks and the Wild would come on, and the Canucks would lose 4-1, and they just look terrible. So I'm hoping we see some more goals at least.
Yeah, man. And with Besser, I hear a lot of Calder Cup grumblings. You think that could happen?
I'm believing the Besser hype. I'm on the hype train for Brock Besser for sure.
Go
ahead.
I'm about to buy my ticket for his hype train, man. I meant the Calder Trophy, but
yeah. Hey man, 5 points in 2 preseason games. I think it's time to start just giving him the trophy already.
Fuck yeah, why not?
I think it's just so wide open with the Calder race. I mean, there's some great names. I think Keller and McAvoy are guys that catch my eye.
Yeah, Charlie's my top for that award this year.
Sure. He looked so good last year.
He really did
for a rookie jumping in the playoffs. So he's my favorite right now. But Besser. He's just that talented. I mean, you watch him play, and as long as he works in his overall game, defensively, he could easily do it. I mean, he's already one of the most skilled players on the Canucks. Not that that's saying a whole lot, but he's got a ton of skill. He's got the chance to put up 20 goals, but it'll be interesting to see just how he does over a full season of play, right? I mean, he did come off wrist surgery last year, so we'll see how healthy that wrist is, and he's never been through the rigors of a full NHL schedule. I mean, one of the guys I think of with Brock Besser, people are getting all excited about his 4 goals in 5 games, or 4 goals in 9 games. Jared McCann had 5 goals in 9 games for the Canucks, and then scored 1 goal over his next 80 NHL games or so. So it's you got to temper expectations a little bit, but he's got a shot at the Calder for sure.
Oh yeah, man. Who are your 3 stars for the Vancouver Canucks, my bud?
This season?
This upcoming season, dude.
All right, let's go with the third star being. I'll give Brock Besser the third star. Temper expectations a bit.
I like it.
Second star, I think you got to give just to Chris Tanev, just if he's healthy. I mean, the Canucks defense is going to be pretty bad, and I think Tanev is going to keep the Canucks from maybe being last in the league in terms of goals allowed. I mean, Tanev is just an underrated stud back there, and everything he does in terms of getting the puck up the ice and battling in the defensive zone is fantastic. And then Bo Horvat's got to be the best one for sure. He's fresh off that new contract.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably primed to push 60 points this year. So yeah, I think he can make it for sure. So I'd say Horvat's the first star.
Fuck yeah, dude! I like it, man. Where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at BegsTHW for the Hockey Raiders. And that'd be the main place to find my work, man. I'm freelancing for some other sites, including Nucks Misconduct. And that'd be the best place to find me would be Twitter, BegsTHW. Yeah,
man, that's awesome. And I want to thank the Beard at All Beers No Teeth for getting us, acquainted. And I want to thank you, Trevor, for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I know it's not an easy task to talk Vancouver Canucks hockey at this point, but you got me excited. I'm ready to see it.
Right on, man. I love talking Canucks. No matter how bad we are, man, I'll always be watching. I'll always be excited about it. So I'm happy to talk anytime.
Fucking A, buddy. Good luck this season, man.
Right on, man. Thanks again, Will.
Yep. Party on.
Cheers.